Sledgelords.
Got another episode of Sledgelords. Don't touch that dial. Don't touch that. Remember when they used to say that on the radio?
Well, we were just sound testing for so long beforehand that when we actually started, it just felt hilarious. Like, oh, now we have to make sense. We can't just make noises.
There were a couple false starts, too. We debated starting the show by imitating Chinese people.
Right.
Almost. It's a cutting room floor type idea, but we were close.
My fly is down.
That's a good way to start this, too.
Just air that out.
Mine's a button fly, but as a sign of solidarity, I'm taking one out.
Ooh, I would love that. Do you remember? I remember a lot of, like, in 8th grade, there'd be a lot of, like, showing your to, like, other kids or, like, you know, just, like, kind of whipping it out. It was, like, considered, like, a very consistent source of humor.
Well, exactly nothing has changed in my life. Something I actually wanted to bring up. We hadn't talked about this beforehand. When I was drunk in Portland, Oregon this weekend, after we were done filming, I just went up to a random guy on the street, got his permission first, and then showed him my.
And how'd that go?
He was like, "Oh, man, that's kind of small." And then I just ran away.
Because you were terrified of that being the result?
Yeah, I was braced for it.
Oh, I never thought about this. Like, maybe you're one of those dudes, because I've heard this from the OF chicks, that there's like a lot of dudes who are into asking for D ratings on OF.
You're doing a good job, by the way. The D ratings on
like
OF.
That, yeah, they want to, like, tap in. And I've asked a bunch of follow-up questions, like, because some of them claim that they want the girls to say mean things, even if they have a good-sized D.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, some guys have tiny Ds, and they want to be kind of, like, told that, like, oh yeah, that's pretty good. Do you have ketchup on your face right there? Or did you?
It's a pimple. It's a pimple I popped. Quit drawing attention to it. Okay, let's get back to the subject at hand, which is guys.
A murder scene
on OF. Is there ketchup? Is there guys on OF trying to get their Ds rated by a chick with a nice set of Ts?
I'm just assuming that you might have this perversion.
Yeah, how dare you? Okay,
no,
just not everybody who has a small has some sort of kink. Just like not everybody who's gay is. You're perpetuating harmful stereotypes.
Okay, I don't mean to lump you in with them.
That's what you're doing right now.
He's going to throw you paper towels so you can address the ketchup.
Okay, if you could wipe off a pimple, then you would make millions of dollars. Billions of dollars, okay? 16-year-old girls everywhere would make you the next Jeff Bezos.
I just don't feel like I've ever had a pimple that left that sort of, like, bloody, you know, residue afterwards. It's really left, like, quite a crater there.
You want to know the secret?
No.
You want to know why it's there?
Pimple popping?
No. It's there, and it's so pronounced because I'm an athlete. And I was at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and it irritated it.
What is that weird shake there? Can we vote on that in the chat?
Yeah, I'm an athlete.
Yeah, what is that? It's like a pathological thing at this point. You've really been pushing that hard.
You know, I like to play with modulation. Okay, all we have is audio on these shows, so whatever I can do to make the sounds come out a little different. Adam 22. I'm gonna take that opportunity.
Sure, yeah.
Try it sometime, dude. Give me a Danny Mullen with the head shake. It's fun. Do it right now.
No, because everything that keeps popping in my head is, like, deeply offensive. And I don't want to say it.
Say it, dude. We'll have Sid bleep it out if it's that bad.
How much of the King Croc lore is public?
I think most of it.
Really? Okay.
King Croc, guy in my squad who went missing after doing a video.
Right.
What do you want to know?
Is the thing about him living in a shelter, is that public?
Okay, so King Croc is right now in a shelter.
Uh-huh.
I think maybe his mom doesn't want to take him in because King Croc has messed up a couple too many times.
Okay.
He burned the bridges at the last place he lived, which was maybe the best living situation you can have in Los Angeles. He was paying $1,000 straight up under the table, no background check, no contract, to a friend of his, Brooks. Now he's in a shelter, but he's got a job and he's working out and he's getting back in shape. I really would like to bring him back into our fold. The problem is there are some disputes he had. I don't want to get into this too much with a certain girl.
But is she pushing the issue about his behavior being inappropriate, or is it more like you're just expecting that it could become a thing? Like, how vocal has she been about?
Not that vocal in a long time. It wasn't that big of a deal. But what you have to ask yourself is, in this day and age, which is more valuable? A guy who has a squeaky clean record with women, or a guy who's an African American? sometimes you got to choose. And I think right now, the current climate, you go black.
Right.
Once you go black,
like why else did we post those black squares for? Just to push King Croc out of our lives because he wanted to place a woman's hand upon his penis? Like, that's not right.
Yeah, it's kind of, it's like, me too. Believe all women. I got groped by a man. Was he black? Yeah. Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter.
Did you see, do you know that there's this like North Korean woman who was just on Andrew Schultz's podcast, Yomi Park or something?
I saw her on Rogan back in the day.
How long ago?
About a year ago?
She has huge tits.
That's exactly what Leo DiTavio said.
She has a really striking face as well. Her story is insane. I was finishing some poker tournaments out here the other day, and they happened to be on the TV. And then I realized, like, oh, because when I last saw Andrew Schultz, he was talking about some North Korean woman with huge boobs. And I didn't know what he was talking about, and I was just like extremely confused.
He might have been talking about Kim Jong-un.
I caught most of it the other day. But it's pretty funny because she's kind of like conservative. And
she's very conservative.
So it feels like nobody really like wants to talk about her lived experience because she's come to some, like one of her conclusions she's drawn from having been like basically sex trafficked into China by her own mother in order to escape their life in North Korea is that Americans should never give up their guns. That's like one of the things she was saying. And I was just like, oh, fuck yeah.
Yes.
Like they must hate her.
Oh, they absolutely hate her. She told a story on Joe Rogan, I think, about getting robbed at a bus stop by a black man.
Right.
And she made very clear to say it was a black man. And that's what I was just like, oh, this is the end for her as far as mainstream acceptability. She's now lumped in the group of with Candace Owens as minority white supremacists.
Right. Yeah. White passing. You see that Vice documentary where an Asian guy gets told that he's like, or it's a Vice like debate, I think, where an Asian guy gets told that he's white passing.
White passing.
And he's like Chinese, like
Breakdown,
full-blooded Chinese.
Before we move on, I just want to say that Leandro DiTavio did DM Yaomi or whatever her name, the North Korean girl, and she did respond. So there has been a connection between a business partner of mine, Leandro DiTavio.
She said on Schultz's podcast that she is in a relationship.
You didn't make your move fast enough, Leandro.
Right.
He tried, though.
I don't know, but I think they recorded that a few weeks ago, so maybe there's time. Or maybe she would like forget about her relationship for Leo.
Maybe. And this boyfriend, whoever he is, should probably look into this. He should probably confiscate that cell phone and go through the direct messages.
It would be hard. Well, okay. That is a good question, though. How would you feel? Like, how would it make you feel to know that your girlfriend had a history like that? Like, how do you
sex trafficked?
Yeah. Like, how do you even deal with that? And she said that the people who sex trafficked her were retarded, which
mentally ill.
I mean, that just really paints a picture of like what the fuck this might have been like.
The question we need to ask ourselves right now is if the sex is unconsensual, if it's a rape or a sex trafficking incident, does that count as 2 or does that count as 0? Is it more partners or is it worse or is it better?
I'm going to give her a pass. I'm going to count it as 0.
It's 0?
Yeah, because I empathize with what she's been through so much that I'm just going to want to just like, okay, we're going to strike those from the record. But the question is would these fucking red pill guys give her the same benefit of the doubt? Because I highly doubt that Andrew Tate's going to be subtracting it from her body count. There's no way.
I wish I could do an Andrew Tate accent right now. It's kind of tough. Like, she got sex trafficked by 3 men. That's fucking
one of which
slutty.
was me.
That's slutty. And one of which is me and my brother. She's a whore. Multiply it by 10. One of the men she was sex trafficked by was probably black.
The other day I was watching something about the Count from Sesame Street. Are you familiar?
I used to be terrified of him.
He's from the Carpathian Mountains, which is the exact same area that Andrew Tate is from.
It's a conspiracy.
That kind of tripped me out because there's no place in Romania that I can name. But all of a sudden, like within like 48 hours of itself, I'm watching that Vice documentary about Andrew Tate, and then I'm watching The Count be from the same fucking place. How many sports cars does he have? We don't know. How many webcam models is he managing?
We don't know.
We don't know.
How into sports cars is he? I think probably into them.
But I read an article that said that in reality, like, you know how it's kind of always presented that place where Andrew Tate lives is like this baller pad. I read this article from some journalist who went there and said that it's not in like the nice part of wherever the fuck he's at in Romania, and that the house actually, in and of itself, when you go there, seems like kind of a shithole. So, I mean, presumably it's even worse of a shithole now since they've been locked up for like a month and a half. Not that I wish anything against them, because I'm still trying to remain open-minded about whatever's going on, because it seems like there might be so much fuckery in that case.
There's a lot to take in. I honestly haven't been paying too much attention to it.
No, it's probably better for your soul to sort of reserve judgment on Andrew Tate, right?
And I'm already a pimp, so I don't need his Hustlers University or whatever he sells. The Count, though, like, whose idea was it? You have a child now. You might be able to relate to this. Whose idea was it to put a blood-sucking vampire on a children's program?
And that's the thing, is that when he started out, if you watch the old Count stuff, it's very dark. He's clearly a vampire. He, has gothic persuasions.
He speaks in an English accent, which adds a degree of creepiness.
It's Romanian. I don't know. That's where they say he's from. But where's the accent? Is the accent accurate to where he's supposed to be from? Is the Sesame Street lore that comprehensive?
Yeah, no, it's some guy in Glendale in a recording booth doing his voice. And that guy was born in like Tarzana. And he's like, 1, 2,
right. But
3.
at some point, they removed all scariness from the Count's character, and it became 100% goofy, fun-loving, loves to count.
I hope he always loved to count. I mean, that was like the premise.
Yeah, but there was like a scary vampire vibe. And now, if you were to observe the Count's behavior, it might as well be Cookie Monster minus the cookies plus the counting.
Got it. I think he stays away from Bert and Ernie because they're gay and he doesn't want to get AIDS.
But we don't know that they're gay.
That's confirmed, dude.
It's just an assumption.
I think it's more than an assumption at this point.
I once went to an artist's studio, this guy Trouble Andrew, and he had all these paintings that he was working on, and some of them were clearly like for brands, right? And some of it was like Sesame Street stuff. And one of them was kind of like a blatant Ernie and Bert are gay style reference. Like it sort of had like some rainbows, and Ernie and Bert are holding hands, and I'm looking at it.
Bert's cock is rock hard. And
something like that. And I was like, oh, so you get these commissions from these brands to do projects for them, and then you can just try to sneak in your little subtle messaging, right? And he's like a little nod and a wink. And but I don't know if they ever actually used it. If they did, I would love to purchase one.
When you do stuff like that, are you always looking over your shoulder that the Sesame Street Corporation is going to sue you because you made a
commissioned
by Sesame Street?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought, but
I don't know if
some
they
clothing
accepted
brand.
The sort of gay version of this that he seemed to be going with. It was a sneak. It wasn't like in your face.
It should have been.
But see, that's the problem, is that like, if that were to be released, it would become part of the official Sesame Street lore, and it would be used as proof that Bert and Ernie are gay, which I very much so disagree with.
And then Ben Shapiro would have to sound off on that for sure. Anyway, listen, this is it. This is what we're trying to do. They're trying to get him at age 4, okay? Christian values are out the window. Now we have two puppets in a homosexual relationship that share a bedroom, okay? This is the agenda. This has always been the agenda.
Did you see that our boy Ryan Long just got on Rogan?
Did he?
Yes.
Fuck yeah.
Crazy, right?
I'm hyped for him.
But isn't that so Rogan to find out about his skits and his like man on the street style stuff, like approximately like 9 to 12 months after it blew up?
Yeah.
I mean, his schedule's probably booked out that far.
Damn, dude. Ryan Long's the man, and I'm super happy for him. I'm also jealous. Yeah, I'm also jealous.
But you kind of have like a gay thing for him, right? Because I saw you in like you took your whole van down to San Diego to go to his comedy show. I'm like, wow, what a friend.
You thought that was suspicious that I drove 2 hours to go to a man's comedy show in a van?
I guess that's where you're at in your life, is that, that's just a regular night. For me, that sounds like a lot.
Okay, just because I shaved my asshole and brushed my teeth and got in a van and drove down to Ryan Long's comedy show and spent an hour with him in the green room before showtime.
Ooh, flexing.
Doesn't mean anything, okay? What he and I and my lubed up fist did in a room backstage is between him and I.
Right.
In my fist.
You and your fist. I wonder, do you think that Ryan Long's podcast views, we should really audit this. We should pay close attention to his social blade to see what it does to his podcast.
I'm curious.
Me too.
Joe Rogan on Spotify. I have Spotify, but I forgot my password. And I've been so complacent about that a year and 2 months have gone by and I haven't signed into Spotify once.
Right.
I've just been paying them hundreds of dollars over that period without using their product. I haven't been listening to Rogan. I'm not sure how high his views still are. I assume it's giant. And I assume it's going to be a big help to Ryan,
I think
of course,
it's the biggest podcast in the world. But that's...
Still, even though it's behind a paywall.
That's what I've heard. Now, I don't know if I believe it or if it's true still, because at one point I saw like a breakdown of basically like because it's hard to judge like how big podcasts are once they're on Spotify because you can't see any of the data.
Yeah.
But they basically went through all people, like 100 people plus who had been on Rogan when it was on all platforms, and then they took the people who had been on it since it's been on Spotify, and they counted how many Twitter followers that person got during the week that they were on Rogan, right? Mm-hmm. Which seems like a fair measure of like how much influence it has, because certainly I've seen people on Rogan and gone and followed them on Twitter if they seemed interesting.
Yeah.
And, being that we don't have access to any other information, I mean, it's not perfect, because it's like the more interesting you are, the better a job you do on the podcast. But I mean, the interesting part of it too, to me, in terms of somebody like Ryan, why I would want to know is because it's not like Rogan is huge when he interviews somebody gigantic. Mm-hmm. You kind of wonder like how big the impact is when he interviews somebody that isn't going to necessarily have a lot of name recognition. Mm-hmm. Like how picky and choosy are the people who watch Joe Rogan in terms of which episodes they watch.
And how many people are comedy fans?
Yeah.
That's changed a lot. In the early days, I'm sure it was all comedy fans when it was just like him and Joey Diaz and Brian Redband. But now, I would say the majority of people who watch Rogan aren't hitting comedy clubs every other weekend and aren't following obscure stand-ups with like 2,000 Twitter followers.
You wonder how much thought Rogan puts into the mix of the balance of political people versus random people versus comedians versus MMA, like
science, academics.
Do you think it's all just who he feels like talking to, and then they just sort of spread it out?
I think he just whatever he wants to do to keep himself interested, he does.
Yeah.
Does he do stand-up anymore? His podcast is so deadpan, you forget that he's also a stadium act when it comes to stand-up comedy.
Right.
Like him and Dave Chappelle will fill 100,000-seat places.
I can listen to Rogan all day on the podcast, but I'm not really... I'm not the biggest stand-up fan in the first place, but it's not really like my favorite comedian.
I like Joe Rogan a lot. You know what I've been thinking about is... to kill in a stand-up club, to murder, everybody's dying laughing, you need to be damn good.
Right.
But to absolutely murder the people who are in their living room on a Friday night with a glass of wine watching your stand-up special, you need to be an all-timer. Like the amount of people who are transcendently funny through a TV screen is a really small number.
I went and saw Rogan live one time.
I died when I saw Rogan live.
Really?
I really enjoyed him. I like him through a screen, too. I'm a
Rogan
Rogan
lot of
fan.
animosity towards stand-up comedians in general when I watch them live.
You're jealous.
Is
that what the Jason Ellis
I feel like
thing
it
is
takes
all
a lot more for me to be impressed than the average person.
By
I feel
stand-up
like
comedy.
Yeah, I'm not proud of that, because I would like to be like more open-minded to it, but I feel like there's a lot of stand-up comedy that I watch where I'm just like, that was dreadful. But I can say the same thing about podcasts too. I listen to podcasts all the time, and I feel like I'm just basically like writing a fucking book report in my head about why this is not a good podcast.
Mm-hmm. When you and I listen to our podcast back, though, I'm sure you're like A+.
Well, sometimes I'll look at the timestamps. I'll be like, wow, we really didn't talk about much, did we?
We spent 40 minutes on masturbation here.
Yeah.
Danny talked about pussy for 5 minutes there. A little bit of BMX. That's a wrap.
Yeah.
That's a wrap.
When you go to pick out the TikToks is when you really start to be like, damn. There wasn't a lot going on there, was there?
Yeah, dude, whenever I see those timestamps, I'm just like, there's a cornucopia of comedic excellence here. Where to begin?
Yeah. Sometimes I feel like that. No, all right. Give me like 20 seconds here. I'm going to see how your TikTok's doing. This is big.
Stellar. That's the answer. Stellar.
Not good. 700 views.
Well, it's been like 3 minutes.
It has
When did you post that?
19 minutes.
I also want to point out, how did this become my TikTok? It was filmed on your phone, uploaded to your account. I didn't even know you were filming. I just walked through the door.
Let's give the play-by-play, because I'm not sure if people are going to necessarily seek it out. But I was filming Danny, T-Rel, and Smack, Flacco, just sort of hanging out in the office, communicating.
But before I even ran into those guys, though, there's a new security guard
this week
who looked at me like I was going to commit an act of domestic terrorism.
Right. Well, he doesn't know you. He's new. He's filling in for the week.
Well, tell him to respect.
Well, I mean, I wasn't going to tell him. Like, I figured you guys could establish your own respect.
I got to go establish respect with the interim security guard?
Well, I mean, what Was it really that challenging?
It was pretty challenging.
You just saying like, I'm Danny, I do a podcast here.
I did.
How much more of it could there have been?
He muttered something racial under his breath. I'm almost positive.
Shut the fuck
I think
up.
it was honky or cracker. But also, he just wouldn't get out of the way.
That would be sick. That would be fucking awesome. No, actually, that would be bad.
It was in his eyes. It was in his eyes. I could tell he didn't like me. I could tell he didn't like what I stood for.
Maybe he's seen some of your videos.
Maybe. Or just a gangly white guy shows up in a Hawaiian shirt. Hey!
So Danny's in here. He's holding a bunch of different things, including this this coffee cup that he has right here because he goes to 7-Eleven to get coffee like a fucking homeless person. And I bring up a tender memory from last week in which Danny said, I think, I want to spit on T-Rail's booty hole and jam my finger in it or something like that.
I stand by it.
And I brought that up, and T-Rail just has to, put it on like, oh, what are you talking about? That's just, and then he hit you with a little bit of a judo trip.
I
could not believe what I had just filmed. I had no idea this was coming. I've never seen T-Rail accost anybody aside from Frank Ocean. Mm-hmm. And I was stunned. And I noticed how you were sort of put in this position where you had to try to figure out what tone you wanted to take with it. Mm-hmm. And so you approached him and smacked him across the face.
I did.
No. But you sort of, laughed, rolled with the punches.
Well, my elbow actually quite hurts from that impact.
Really?
That's why in the TikTok I'm crying almost or whining a bit when I hit the ground. But Terrell, hats off to Terrell. He came in quick with a hard Osoto Gari. I think he's been training some judo.
You got tripped by a guy with one arm, one operational arm.
It's a Trojan horse type thing. Okay, right. I wasn't ready for it,
and that's why it was so impressive.
It was impressive.
That's why I was so taken aback by what happened.
But also, I just want to put it out there right now. If T-Rail or T-Rail?
I would say T-Rail.
Okay, I'm going to go T-Rail. Okay. But T-Rail is a black man with one arm. I mean, how good would it look? Anybody with one arm, skin color aside, how good does it look if you attack them and you win?
It probably wouldn't be a good look for you in general.
It wouldn't be a good look.
Yeah. Really, violence in general is very much looked down upon in the workplace, but that was what kind of made that situation interesting, is
violence really looked down upon in this workplace? In this workplace?
We try to look down upon it as much as possible, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Except when rent's due on this place, or excuse me, the mortgage.
Any violent acts that have occurred on this podcast are entirely incidental and just sort of happen. The heat of the moment just sort of encourages that kind of behavior sometimes,
Does the extra 25 to 50 G's in AdSense that you pocket when those things pop off, is that incidental as well?
I'm not going to confirm or deny any figures, but sometimes
1 million views on a clip.
Well,
sounds pretty good on AdSense to me.
There has been a lot of these sort of incidents in recent memory, And
rising tide lifts all boats.
Poetic
all those
Flacco
other
gets his face spit in by 16 shot and visuals.
Yeah.
Krishan Rock gets carried out of the building. Little House Phone throws a drink at Adam 22. Almighty Suspect attacks Lil Kelpie.
This sounds like a comic book right now.
I know.
Just all these aliases and all of these acts of violence.
People think we're scripting shit.
Yeah, Little Kelpie took on Big Submarine, and Little Blue Man got into beef with Bandana Face, and I can't. This sounds like it's something out of a work of fiction, but it's real. And
so this sort of raises a topic that I'm very much interested to discuss with you, because I was watching your new video. Last night.
Thank you. As everybody should.
Coming in hot at, 140,000 plus views in a mere 24 hours. Danny Mullen putting numbers on the board.
Oh, yeah.
I watched it, and the basic gist of the video is that you were with a bunch of, gangly, weird-looking white people for the most part, and you got into a vehicle and you went on a trip of sorts to, where was it again? Palm Springs?
Joshua Tree.
I think it's 30 minutes in this video. I watched about 20 minutes. So if anything happened towards the end of it, I would probably be not clued in about that. But the title said that there was a brawl. And then when I actually watched it, there was a momentary scuffle captured in the background of one clip before they, patch things up. Okay. And I'm not here to complain about clickbait or anything like that. But it did occur to me that perhaps maybe you were influenced by the No Jumper way of life in which we assault each other for content, which is really becoming a little too common.
So it seems like you're less concerned about my influence, and it seems like you're more concerned about the dictionary definition of the word brawl.
Well,
and, it seems like basically the clickbait thing.
I was kind of sitting there about halfway and like, wait, so that was the brawl?
Yeah. And I love how you say, and I'm not trying to accuse you of going for clickbait or anything, after you directly accuse me of abusing clickbait.
It's not so much an accusation as a statement of fact, because it almost certainly was an extreme exaggeration based on...
Okay. The title of the video is "My Crew is Falling Apart," which you could argue is also an exaggeration.
Yeah, right.
Parentheses.
Everybody seemed like they were getting along fine.
Parentheses, brawl. What, Adam, do you suggest I put between those parentheses? One punch, end parentheses.
Brief scuffle.
Brief scuffle. Oh, yeah, that'll look great to a scrolling potential YouTube viewer.
They love that.
Brief scroll. Right hand. Boom. Pow.
I feel like the Danny Mullen fans, though, are the type of people who are so lacking in lived experience or having, been involved in violence that probably does qualify as a brawl to them. Whereas for me, a brawl is really going to have to involve like a bunch of people hitting each other.
A bunch of people with silly nicknames fighting each other near microphones.
On No Jumper, that would basically be how that would carry out, yeah.
Can it be No Jumper, parentheses, people with silly nicknames brawling near microphones?
How about just No Jumper, brawl?
Parentheses.
That was the title.
Yeah.
Goes left.
Dude, 147 views in one day. I'm telling you, man, there's a big payoff.
Yeah, I was looking at it. I'm like, 7,000 likes. That's a lot of likes. But how does that feel to sort of be like, damn, like people are more interested in my vlogs than my podcasts, either of your podcasts? Like, does that feel kind of weird? Like there's two versions of you, and one is wacky and like harassing woke college students, and then the other one is more sitting and talking, and that people seem a bit more interested in one than the other. How's that feel?
It makes a lot of sense to me, actually, because the vlogs we do, we're infiltrating Stanford University. I'm taking a 400-pound guy with bear mace on his hip and a guy named Rat Dick Ralph who's high on acid to the desert, and they're getting naked and punching each other. That is a rarer commodity in the world of entertainment than two guys sitting on a couch talking into microphones. There are a lot of podcasts. Almost everybody has a podcast who's involved in the entertainment industry. But no comedians or people who are comedy adjacent, just like you and I were comedy adjacent. We're alt-right adjacent too. But
allegedly. You more than me.
No, we kid.
Richard Spencer follows me.
But it makes sense that people are going to tune in to a shorter, more curated, more heavily edited adventure that's out in public, especially if there's a brawl in the title.
Right. Interesting how that works, isn't it? Okay, but this is the thing that I was thinking about is I'm sure that you could say that you've developed all these different personalities on your channel. Like really, you and I. Throwing paper towels. Look at that. You and I are in a similar position because we both have like a cast of different characters who are essentially like helping us make content. And it puts you in a unique role because I would say in your case, some of these people are more blatantly lol cows than the majority of the people on our channel.
It's kind of insulting.
Well, but you know what I mean. Like I've seen what's his name? Meat fuck, whatever, the fat fuck. His
name's Mudflap.
Whatever.
I'll have you know he's lost 90 pounds in the last couple months too.
Oh, that's great. He needs to lose more. But I've seen videos of yours where like you guys are out in public and you're like,
did you call him meat fuck?
Meathead, whatever. Meatball.
One of us, we need to work backward and we need to have a crew member named Meat Fuck. Either me or you, but continue.
But like you are, kind of like sometimes I get hit with the accusation of like, oh, like look at Adam, he's just using these people for content. He's a sociopath. He doesn't really care about any of them. And then I look at your stuff and it's kind of like in a way more blatantly that, I think, like in the sense that you're sort of going out in public with these people and getting them drunk and like they're brawling in the street and they're saying offensive things to people. And I just wonder, like, I would like to have a conversation about the responsibility that you have and the optics surrounding doing the sort of thing that you and I have both sort of found ourselves doing, where we really have like a cast of characters sort of making content under us. being that many of yours are mentally retarded in a way that mine, I don't think are.
And they're overweight, and they have small dicks, and they're drug addicts.
Big dicks is a big part of the No Jumper brand.
Yeah, it is.
Privately,
it is. Or alleged big dicks.
Privately, I've checked out the wieners of everyone who works here.
Except for Flacco.
He has avoided scrutiny.
Yeah, he has. And I'm a little suspicious, to say the least.
Since the very beginning, he's been saying, I am 10 inches in girthy.
10 inches in girth.
Which is normally not something I would expect someone to say if they weren't going to, like, prove it.
And he hasn't proved it.
At all.
I don't think we have anybody who's 10 inches in girthy in my squad. Yeah, there's a big gulf.
For the record, 10 inches is...
massive.
I mean, I've heard that 11 is the biggest in the world.
Yeah. Yeah, we had, we're getting off topic here. Zookeeping
That's
as a profession. Yeah, zookeeping.
Okay,
I mean,
like
I'd be careful if I were you throwing that order.
Yeah, actually,
you shouldn't. I can, because now that King Croc has disappeared, my crew is entirely white, so I can call them animals, and it's not a big deal. It's the taking advantage of thing. Sometimes it feels that way, but then again, like, you look at it and some of the guys in my squad, they're getting laid off being in videos. Right there. There are a lot of young men out there who would endure almost anything if it was going to get them just one vagina. And that one vagina has been provided to multiple people in my crew. Number two, this coming onto our shows and our podcasts and our programs, it becomes not as much as it is for you. These people that work for you are actually being paid significantly. They're employed. Now, I have employees that I take care of, and they have a really cool job that's not stressful and they enjoy. But even people like King Croc was starting to make money. King Croc, if he would have stayed with us. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He was getting paid for the shoots he came on, and then he was getting paid to do the Patreon podcast with Leo.
Because you were starting to view him as more valuable to the channel. He was starting to become a draw.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And if I'm flying him to Louisiana for a video, he deserves to not only have his travel compensated, but also to get paid some on top of that. So if people stay with us and they work hard and they make themselves valuable, they're making money too. But yeah, I mean, I feel like any boss is going to be accused of quote unquote exploiting people. I mean, I remember when I used to work as a busboy, I hate this job. Our boss Mario's a dick. Fuck him. Like they won't let me work overtime because they're trying to screw me over. They don't want me to get that extra pay. That's always the attitude people have toward bosses.
Would you allow someone to join the Danny Mullen regime who was like full blown retarded, or even perhaps like somebody who had Down syndrome? Like, no offense, I don't know if they're considered retarded or not, but
well, Danny Duncan's already broken the Down syndrome barrier.
He did?
Yeah, he's got a guy in his squad with Down syndrome.
Really?
Yeah.
I've seen the short people.
He like hits golf balls off the guy's head and dips his hand in warm water when the guy's sleeping so he pees himself.
I feel like I would not be able to get away with that.
He didn't do that. He does have a guy with Down syndrome, Danny Duncan, that he brings around occasionally.
Okay.
But I think the humor when he's around is very respectful.
Yeah, I would think that you probably would have to do that. Because I always think about Howard Stern, because all throughout when I was like 12, 13, 14, I would listen to Howard Stern and watch his show on E! And, a lot of the laughs were really, him bringing in people, some of whom were like, just dumb. Some who clearly were suffering from like serious mental illness.
Wendy the retard, Gary the retard.
All that stuff. And it was just like, I don't know. When I look back on that, some of it seems like it really hasn't aged well. And obviously he's kind of switched up his whole character as a result probably of a lot of that. But, there were some interesting devices that they employed. I was thinking about it. Normally one of these guys who was not like a host on the show, but more just like an object of ridicule that they would sort of use on the show, they would usually be standing up towards the entrance of the show so that it was easy for them to sort of tell them to get the hell out of there.
Yeah.
Standing up in front of a microphone, which is kind of different than if you have them like seated in a chair.
Well, you can catch a retard if they're around for too long.
Yeah, well, also like, it's easier to kick them out, and then also they're just sort of, it's more like they're performing for you and your fellow host real quick. Like you could imagine that if there was someone just standing there and we were looking at them, it would be very easy for us to sort of shrug them off, whereas if they're seated with a microphone, it might be different.
I think we should do this. I think you and I should be dressed in flowing purple robes and have scepters and crowns and just dance for me. A local handicap society makes people...
It's awkward for us too, though, because then they know where the office is.
Yeah, we don't want people with mental illness knowing
Well,
this
it's
place.
like, how many do you want to know?
I don't want a bunch of people with Down syndrome bouncing around on the street around here. I don't want that, dude.
I've seen what happens when you like really try to turn truly sick people into content, and it's quite often not great.
Does it put you off, Adam? Let me say this.
You end up dealing with weird situations afterwards.
First of all, my mother is a retired special ed teacher. Okay, she taught for 32 years. So I have the R word pass. I can say retard. I basically can do whatever I want with these people.
I have decided that I was going to stop growing up in the mid-90s, so I'm pretty much stuck where I was at then, so I still have to say gay and retard. It's just kind of in my blood, you know?
Yeah, no, I got you. And that's
This is a
defense.
safe space.
This is a safe space for
I
you and I.
identify as a man living in 1995.
1993, bro. That means I can say FAG. You know, I'm still scared to say that one. But no, you and I, as a couple of straight white men, we should be able to say whatever we want without fear of repercussions. Now, Gary the retard, Howard Stern. There was an episode, or there was I don't know if you'd call it an episode. There was a week where they flew him out to Vegas, had him perform in various stunts, playing blackjack with money that wasn't actually his. Howard gives him a couple grand. He plays. I remember there was one challenge. It might have been blackjack, where the prize was he got to have sex with an escort. Gary the retard. The girl was smoking hot, giant triple D fake chest. She makes out with him in front of everybody, and then there are shots of her giving him a lap dance in a limo, and I think they might have even slept together. If Howard Stern didn't quote-unquote exploit Gary the retard that weekend, would he really have had a better time? Would he be happier sitting at home, drooling, looking at the wallpaper? No.
But the average Danny Mullen piece of content is not like, oh, you get to bang this porn star and have the time of your life.
Well, Rat Dick Ralph got to see porn star titties this weekend.
Right. That's what I'm saying. It's more like you might get to look at some boobs. You might have to go jerk off in the bathroom. And then realistically, Danny Mullen is probably going to scream at you and treat you like he's Ellen DeGeneres.
Do I do that?
I mean, I don't know.
Who did I scream at in this last video? I'm treating like Ellen DeGeneres.
How did you make Holly join the crew?
Holly
from Australia.
Holly is a big fan of
Holly
this.
Day.
Holly Day is a big fan of this podcast and the Danny Mullen channel. After I showed up to the AVN Awards, I don't mean to brag, but a lot of good-looking porn star trim started following your boy. And she wanted to be involved in a shoot, so she was really insistent on coming out to Joshua Tree, because her and I had talked about it. I kept saying, you sure you want to do this? It's going to be the middle of the night, around a campfire, and there are going to be 14 men on acid, okay? Rape, I don't want to say is imminent, but it's certainly possible.
Oh my God.
It's certainly possible. And
I don't think that's a safe workplace. I don't think that you could have like somebody join your crew even temporarily and just allow for that.
well, I'm HR. Whatever
you
I
are.
say flies.
I was going to say you need HR.
No, I am HR, dude.
Okay.
HR. And
Triple H.
HR in my case stands for hiring retards.
That's right.
Listen, Holiday came out and she had a great time. She rolled the punches. Holiday rolled out. She teased Rat Dick Ralph, who was really high on mushrooms, and she had a great time. She slept next to the fire in the elements with a bunch of other people. She had fun. Everybody was super respectful.
Think about rolling her into the fire?
Why? You just want to light girls on fire? Is that the new thing you're accusing me of?
Didn't you slice a woman in half with a katana at one point?
Touche. No, I did not push Holly into the fire, okay? She had a great time.
A good prank.
You could just burn Australian people.
I mean, I don't know.
You ever rolled a lass into the open fire?
I'm open to the possibility that would be acceptable.
No. But she came out and she had a great time, dude. And that's how we roll. You know, we are I make a lot of jokes and a lot of things have been said, but in reality, you come out, like the guys who fought Mudflap and Rat Dick Ralph, they made up, they're friends now. Everybody had a kick-ass time doing psychedelics in the desert. And that's what the Danny Mullen channel is all about. Having a kick-ass time while, minorities and people with mental illness work out their shit.
We could easily do an episode where we got Kazumi to have sex with a handicapped person.
Let's do it. What are we waiting for?
She would do it.
Yeah.
It's really just how much we want to debase ourselves.
There's no limit on that for me.
I mean, we had Crip Mac eating cake, or was it? No, it was like chicken linguine. It was like pasta and chicken and rice, or I forget. Probably not both pasta and rice, but he was eating some sort of like hearty meal out of a woman's ass.
Was he Was he using the ass cheeks like taco shells?
He was sort of like dumping it on the top of her ass and just sort of like really getting in there. He was really eating her vagina too from behind. It was wild.
Did that happen on this couch?
No, that was at the last spot. But that was certainly a situation in which, quite a few people thought that maybe I was being exploitative.
What do you think? We run entertainment brands. We run entertainment brands, and I'm going to blame YouTube. YouTube, the algorithm doesn't kick in unless we do some crazy stuff.
And the algorithm does not reward anything really besides exploiting the handicapped.
That's what it likes.
That's all it does.
It likes that the most, okay?
You can't show tits on YouTube, but you can do a video in which you exploit the handicapped.
You absolutely
The
can.
algorithm cannot account for it. The algorithm can't tell who's retarded and who isn't. And really, who are we to make that decision?
I don't know. Am I a doctor? Do I administer IQ tests? I don't.
I think we should now loudly proclaim, shout it from the mountaintop. I do not consider myself above using the mentally retarded in my content.
As a guy whose mom taught
really
mentally handicapped people for 32 years, I'm not above it either. I did community service at her school once. Dude, it's no, mental handicap in all seriousness. Now, mental handicaps are really, really crappy, dude, because they ruin families.
Yeah.
Dude, they absolutely tear apart families. The divorce rate is so high for any family who has a severely handicapped child. And when I went, because everybody had a handicapped kid at their school who they would try to integrate into your third grade class or whatever, but then he would take the short bus home. We all dealt with that. I went to my mom's specialized handicapped student school to do community service. I saw really, really handicapped kids who were just being kept alive, basically because their parents didn't want to deal with the guilt of pulling the plug. Yeah. Like kids being pushed around in wheelchairs with heads the size of a basketball, the size and the shape of a basketball.
Bro, that right there, what you're describing, like crazy misshapen head, like fucking in a wheelchair, can't move a muscle. When I first moved to Long Beach, the dude, like the family downstairs, they had a kid who was like that. And, it was super sad. Obviously, we're just seeing it and we all try to be respectful or whatever, as respectful as you can be when you're fucking having crazy parties raging out until 4 in the fucking morning. Who knows?
Loud upstairs! Loud! Oh. Sorry. Was that disrespectful? My mom is a special ed teacher.
Okay. But that was the part of the problem, though, was that one of our roommates, Catfish, who I just sent you the debate between Bizzle and Catfish, his room was right above this fucking poor kid's room. And he would hear him howling, oftentimes like all night, just making these crazy fucking noises.
Did Catfish ever drill a hole in the floor and pop his wiener through?
No, not that I know of. No, he was below him.
Oh.
And sound travels up.
Yeah, but Catfish should have dropped his cock down.
That would have been cool. Yeah, that would be great if he was sexually harassing this kid. But no, he
it would have been great.
Bro, like knowing what I know now, having a kid though, he should have got a white noise machine.
The handicapped kid.
Or Catfish.
But
then like my friend, like after Catfish moved out, one of our other friends moved in with his girlfriend, and they'd be trying to like get freaky and shit, and they'd be hearing this shit all day and night. And that sort of made me realize why we got such a good deal on this apartment at that time. But also I would like to elaborate on that a little bit more. I feel like when I was a young person in particular, that I developed an irrational fear of the handicapped as a result of the fact that I was basically accosted by 2 different handicapped people when I was young. And allow me to tell you the tales. And really, this might end up being the clickbait for this episode because I don't know what the fuck else we're going to call it.
Accosted by the handicaps?
Adam's irrational fear of the handicaps.
Adam's irrational fear. There's just a guy with a wheelchair chasing you in the thumbnail.
I'll give you my 2 incidents, and you tell me if this is enough to justify me having what I feel like is kind of an irrational fear.
And I am the arbiter of judgment of the handicap.
You can judge if my psychological condition that I inherited from these incidents is appropriate or not.
Should we call my mom? She can totally confirm, but continue.
I would like you to send her the clip for sure. So the first one, I was seated on a blanket with my parents. And I apologize to anyone who's heard this before. I don't know if I've ever said this before, but I'm sitting on a blanket with my parents at a lake, as you do in New Hampshire, a little lake, me and my sister. I'm guessing that I was maybe like 8 or 9 years old. And I see a van pull up, and the handlers who are sort of piloting this van, they get out and they go to open the door, and a couple of different mentally retarded people escape from the van and go sprinting onto the beach.
They escape?
Yes. Well, I mean, it's they really just ran to the lake, which is like whatever. It's like it's not that far, but it was clear that these people who were there supposed to be taking care of them, that they were not in control. And so one of the handicapped people runs and really like beelines it straight towards me. Like he's making noises, he's grunting. It's terrifying. And he fucking runs right towards my little 8-year-old butt and sits himself down right next to me and sort of just makes eye contact with me. And somehow in my head, he looks like Mr. Bean. So just use that if you're trying to like, paint a picture in your head, and sort of hits me with the, and I think like my parents are like 10 feet away in the water and they're not seeing that this is happening. So I'm just on my own. Like, I don't know if I cried or not. I certainly might have cried, or I might have just been like speechless.
Yeah.
But yeah, that definitely happened. So I was about 8 then. And then now we fast forward to 7th grade when I was about 12. And I'm walking down the hallway in school, going to, I believe, home ec. And
very important class.
A man with Down syndrome, who I would say that his body really kind of resembled that of an ape. Like he just sort of like hunched over, and he had big arms, and he was sort of like
retard strength is a thing.
This dude had it in spades. Let me just tell you, I don't know how old he was. I don't know if they like let these dudes just like stay in school longer than they're traditionally supposed to.
He was 38. He was still trying to master his times tables.
Would not have surprised me. So I'm walking along, and as soon as he passes me by, he turns and he jumps on my back, and he begins to beat on my back and my head and my shoulder. He's pounding on me with this fabled retard strength. He's really just doing a number on me.
Oh, the retard strength.
And at this point, his aide rushes forward and pries him off of me.
His handler,
whatever you might want to call it. And she apologizes to me, and she says, "Are you okay? Do you want me to bring this to the office to report this?" And I'm completely speechless at what just happened. And, I don't really, even at the age of 12, I don't really see myself as somebody who's deeply invested in, snitching on the handicap. So I'm saying, no, it's okay. It's fine. Like, whatever. Like, whatever. I feel like in this day and age, that would be like a way bigger deal.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just sort of went on my way, went to home ec class, and was just forced to sit there and just think about how I was accosted by the handicapped.
It's an interesting question. Like, how many unprovoked physical attacks can one sustain from a certain group before you start to be like, all right, they could be prejudiced against that group?
Yeah, I mean, that is fair. Because for years after that, I mean, I'm not going to say that I I've always known it was irrational, but there was something about being seated near one while we're eating. Mm-hmm. And stuff like that just really kind of started. I felt the prejudice building in my brain, and I knew I had to fight it off. I watched American History X. I'm like, okay, we don't want to go that far. We don't want to form like a militarized anti-handicap group or anything.
You wouldn't drag a handicapped man off his wheelchair and position his teeth on a nearby curb.
And I'm proud to say that I have gone my entire life without curb stomping anyone, including the handicapped.
No California smileys?
That's what they call that?
I think I've heard it called that before.
It like rips your lip?
I've heard it just kills you instantly. I'm not sure if it would kill you, but it would certainly be messed up.
Should we debunk curb stomping?
Maybe. Yeah,
I wonder how many occur per year.
Curb stompings?
Yeah.
You got to be, I mean, if you let yourself be drug all the way to the curb and you willingly go,
this should be all right.
Like this, you sort of deserve it, right?
Well, that's why I feel like it's like probably extremely uncommon, because unless the person was completely incapacitated, knocked out, I don't think it's happening.
Yeah. It's pretty messed up, dude.
Oh, yeah.
It's pretty, like,
no argument.
The most hardened gangster, after he pulls a California smiley, has got to be like, man, that was fucked up.
I don't think I'd sleep well after that.
I don't think so.
I feel like I could kill someone in self-defense much more easily than I could give them a fucking curb stomp and just go to sleep at night.
What if you curb stomp somebody in self-defense?
I don't think that's how it works.
I think that is how it works.
It would be such a specific scenario in which I had to use that as my method of taking them out.
Have you ever fantasized, I don't know why I've had this fantasy, that somebody breaks into your house in the middle of the night and they hold you and your family up. You deftly, like an Israeli, disarm them and turn the weapon around on them. You reach for your cell phone, you, Adam 22. You reach for it, but you say, you know what? It's not time to call 911 yet. Time to have a little fun. And then you unzip your fly.
What the fuck?
And you make the guy get down on his knees. And then after he blows you, you go out to the tool shed and you go, you fire up the chainsaw. You come inside, you go right at the femur.
That would be the most buck shit, is to have a home invader come into your home and then you kill him knowing you could probably beat the charge on self-defense. Instead, you dispose of the body.
Ooh. And you torture him before you dispose of it.
Sure. Or unzip your pants like you said.
No, you did that.
But
in the fantasy, why are you putting this on me?
I mean, it would just be like...
He sucked your dick.
Extra badass to just sort of like be able to even evade the police as well. Have you ever done any Googling about how you might dispose of a body?
That's usually a bad thing to punch in the search engine. Really bad thing to punch in the search engine.
I'm glad that the last time I Googled it was probably 10 plus years ago. I don't think they were like looking for that kind of stuff. But I remember one of the main ways that it said that you could get rid of a body. And also, I wonder if anyone's done a YouTube video about this, because that's some good clip.
I think that will get taken down. I'm pretty sure that'll get taken down.
Would it though? What if it was like clearly hypothetical?
I love the 10-year barricade though, just to back up real quick. Because like if you sent shady dick pictures at any point before 2011, you're in the clear.
Oh, yeah,
you're in the clear because there was no cloud.
Oh, there's no way.
Which is the best.
But one of the main methods that I saw that you should use to get rid of a body is to feed it to a bunch of like wild boars.
You need to get some wild boars on your property.
Right, it seems like unbelievably unlikely that I would be able to do such a thing.
So you're going to have to like load up the body and cross 3 state lines until you get to Texas? Like, I mean, where do you find a wild boar?
This is the thing.
They have to be wild?
Where I grew up, it would be extremely easy for me to think of a place where I could hide a body. Because there's just tons of like outdoor areas and dirt and grass and like
scraggly woods.
But in LA, like I think I would really struggle. And any place that you would find that would kind of make sense where you could dig for a couple hours, I feel like there's going to be homeless encampments there, and there's no fucking way that you're going to be able to actually do it.
Yeah, the move might be to dress the person up as a homeless man, and then the police will just be like, there's another one, just throw him in the incinerator. Leo, my buddy Leo, we've talked about, he maintains that he had a buddy. I'm not going to specify this buddy's race, but I will say he talked like this, and this is what the guy said. Bro, if you ever kill somebody, bro, I know a guy, $100, he take the body, he put it in the furnace, no questions asked, bro.
100.
It might have been a couple thousand.
Okay.
It might have been a couple. Bro, you pay for this guy's internet bill for 1 month, bro. He disposes the body, bro. No problem.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I have an additional thing I want to add to that as well. Is that one time I had a bad breakup with a girl, and I was venting about it to one of my friends. And this friend of mine, I didn't realize was like a sick fuck, and he started suggesting like ways that I could get revenge on her.
Oh no.
His primary suggestion, this was his first piece of advice as I was telling him about how I was heartbroken, is he said that he sent me a link to a website where they sell boar urine. And he said, what you do is you get a syringe, you fill it up with boar urine, and then you go and you find her car and you squirt the boar urine into like in between the windows and the car, so it gets onto her car seats and everything. You squirt it into the AC vent or whatever. He's like telling me all these different parts of the car that you could theoretically put the boar urine. And I was like,
there are a lot of places.
And I'm like, but isn't she just gonna get it fucking cleaned? And he's like, well, no, boar urine, it's so smelly that it would be like extremely hard to even clean out of someone's cars. You might ruin the entire car with this boar urine thing. And as he said all this, I realized like, well, maybe I'm not really so mad at her after all, because this is just not even something I was even considering.
Okay, I'm relieved that he was just trying to pull a prank.
Right.
Because I thought like the angle was like, bro, you put in the boar urine, and then pretty soon over the horizon, the boars will come running, bro, and they'll eat her alive if she even smells like their piss. I thought that's where you were going with that. And instead it was just like, you know what'll really tick her off?
Bad.
You know what'll really piss her off, bro? If it smells like pee-pee.
Yeah. And this dude was like a former like pro BMX rider.
Fucking
I was looking up to this dude when I was 13.
I hope you've cut ties with everybody in the BMX world.
No.
I don't want to. If you ever suggest, like, usually I'm pretty cool.
You see that bar spin?
Bow. I tried one this weekend when I was in Portland. I couldn't get all the way around. I got a half bar spin.
Were you in the air when you did it?
Yeah.
I feel like you were pulling up on the back wheel. Right?
I just the front wheel came up.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I did that. We have discussed doing a Sledgelords vlog at the skate park.
Dude, I will learn how to bar spin in 1 hour.
In moments.
In 1 hour.
I will do an ollie. I will bust an ollie.
Where's your kickflip, dog?
I feel like I should probably focus on the ollie.
You can't ollie?
I've never done it.
You've never ollied?
No.
That's weird. I feel like people who ride BMX have dabbled in a little bit of skateboarding.
Honestly, I have felt accomplished many times in my life by just being able to sort of roll down the street on a skateboard because I find that so challenging.
I don't get it. I mean, basically, it's the same skill set. You got to stay balanced. You got to roll forward. You got to get a little bit of air.
No, a bike really has like its own momentum. A skateboard is kind of like, I mean, its propulsion can be halted at any given moment by a fucking tiny little rock.
Okay. All right, Albert Einstein.
I'm
I really want to talk about physics here.
A bike is like a thing that's riding and you just sit on it or stand on it. And it's just fundamentally different.
1 second, Adam. Hey, Bossa Nova. Get out of here, dude. Get out of here.
You take these photos.
Get out of here.
Out of here.
Bossa Nova, I was talking about this before the show started. He's really just dressing to piss me off at this point.
The Jinkos make you mad?
Yeah, he's got the Jinkos. He's got the sparkly hat. He's wearing his $700 headphones. He's got DCs that he got off eBay from the year 1998.
Pre-skated in?
Yeah, pre-skated in. The Rob Dyrdek Pro model. All right, we get it. You're cool, Bossa. You're cool.
Yeah. Spooky.
He's got fake paint all over his sweatshirt. And I know you're mocking me here, Adam, at this point, but I'm gonna be the bigger man.
He vomited on himself earlier.
I hope so. Okay, he's bulimic too. Just another habit of a 16-year-old girl he's appropriated.
So
You're a scumbag.
should we throw out our idea that we have about potentially adding some hosts to Sledgelords?
We need a transgender.
Or should we?
Okay. Anybody experiencing gender dysphoria, just come on here. Yeah, Gracie Jane, come on. Gracie Jane, please have sex with many more men in the No Jumper office, and then just be our co-host.
Well, then she can't expose anyone if everyone's done it.
Like one new accusation will come out every month. It'll be fun.
I thought about doing it just for content, and then I was like, no.
Having sex with a transgender person?
Her specifically.
You would actually consider that?
It was a brief consideration.
Really?
I mean, it would be pretty fucking funny, right?
You would do that? You would cross.
I just said that I wouldn't do it, but I briefly thought about it.
You thought about putting your cock in Gracie Jane's asshole.
I didn't think about it that deeply. You're getting a few steps further than I got.
Well, you've done that several times to me this podcast.
Have I?
I think so, yeah.
Who could you potentially see us adding to this podcast? And it's an interesting idea because it's like, I mean, you could get a fan, just somebody funny who's like down to do it just because they're excited about it. Or, I mean, you could go It's Always Sunny on him and we could get like Danny DeVito. I mean,
is he available?
He's probably not available.
Mike Sid.
You could get somebody with like an existing fan base in theory.
Okay, an existing fan base. We reach out to somebody. We bring him in here.
We beat the shit out of him.
We give him a curb stomping.
We show them all of our jiu-jitsu moves.
We lock them in a room with a retarded person for 24 hours. We got to test their phobias. They got to be able to kickflip too.
They have to be able to escape a heel hook.
They have to be able to.
My heel hook.
Adam 22's heel hook. And they have to be able to cure for a staph infection.
They have to be able to go. Whoa.
They got to be able to modulate the voice. That one's not easy.
Decoration.
It's going to be real tough to find somebody who can do that. Wow. Okay, I think obviously looking at the show right now, the third ingredient needs to be a straight white man. We need that.
I totally agree.
He's got to have tattoos.
Uniformity.
Need it. Okay.
Somebody more racist.
Somebody more. We need to look good. We need to look woke and compare. Instead of getting a black person or a trans girl to make us look woke, we just get somebody like Gavin McGinnis who's going to make us look like lefties.
Like a skinhead.
Yeah, somebody way more extreme than Gavin McGinnis.
Somebody was like walking on the street wearing suspenders.
Yeah.
God, I saw someone walking on the street wearing suspenders the other day and it pissed me off so bad. Just like that. You think that's better than a belt? Like, think about how easy putting a belt is. Belt on is it? You barely even notice it. If your shirt hangs down a little bit, you don't even notice it. You put suspenders on, bro. It's like this is the whole story of your upper torso.
Yeah. You need help to put suspenders on, I'm pretty sure. Like you need somebody behind you to clip the thing in.
I could imagine doing it myself, but that would be helpful. Yeah, it's just like a guaranteed wedgie as well, right?
Mike is looking through my... I am going to wear next episode a pair of suspenders, so I'll keep that in mind, all the things you said. I agree, though. When I think suspenders, I think about a guy with a big mustache who works in a barbershop. That's who wears suspenders, okay? Right. He's doing it to declare, like, for some reason I feel like he's got an accent, maybe.
Like, I could have wore a belt.
Yeah. I mean, too indie rock for that, though.
It would be like if you walked into a Subway and you saw somebody eating their sub with chopsticks.
I don't think it's that weird.
It'd be like, okay,
I don't think it's that weird.
Like, you're just showing off. Like, this is not an efficient tool for this job.
No. It's, I completely agree.
So we're looking for someone who's wearing suspenders, either right now or in the near future.
And the chances of somebody wearing suspenders being a white supremacist is high.
Which is helpful. But I've even beyond that, I would say that we should still stay open-minded to people of other races. I don't think they have to be a white supremacist. Maybe they could be like Flacco, who's kind of a black white supremacist.
Yeah, he is.
I would like to stay open to the idea of women.
I don't like that one.
No,
I'm joking.
It could be awkward.
No, I'm joking. Yeah, I like it. I like the idea. I mean, we're talking about Howard Stern here. I like having a couple extra open mics. And, I mean, let's face it. If there are a few extra open mics and a few people who are subordinate to us on the podcast, it's more bullying jokes. More moments of comedy created by you and I don't know, flexing our societal power.
I wonder if that would make it worse, because I feel like if bullying them, the shelf life of that is only going to be so long
before they leave the show,
or before it just gets kind of old. But I do agree that if we could have some, funky energy in here, that might be interesting. There's people that laugh at our jokes even. We've got to really instruct them, though. Don't disagree with us.
Hey, Sydney, I haven't heard a peep out of you this episode. Not even a chuckle. I can't see your face, so I don't know if you're smiling. But
because she's logged into my Instagram. She's reading my DMs.
Is that why? Is that why she's not smiling or laughing?
Yeah,
she's horrified.
It's depraved. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, even if we just had a button we could press, and that's why the chicken crossed the road. Beep.
Oh, laugh track.
If we had a laugh
Nobody's
track,
tried that on a podcast, have they?
I mean, Seinfeld did it.
I mean, you could have any kind of soundboard. That could just be one of them.
Dude, why can't we bring back laugh tracks for podcasts? It's a staple of the 90s sitcom, and some of those shows are dearly, dearly loved.
Maybe that could be Sledgelords' gimmick. Podcast with a laugh track.
I love it. All kinds of old-timey gimmicks. Like you and I start wearing top hats, doing tap dancing. Suspenders, mustache. Yeah, dude, adding somebody could be cool.
It's kind of like you're describing Gavin McInnes here.
I remember
That's really your ideal third, huh?
Gavin McInnes?
Yeah.
Yeah, I listen to his and Anthony Cumia's podcast sometimes.
Really?
They do a good show together. They do a pretty damn good show together.
I watched him and Kanye. That was my first time seeing him in a bit.
He's good. Yeah. Those guys they're hardened veterans of the radio world.
Do you consider Gavin McInnes to be a abhorrent racist, or is that just...
It's so hard to know. I think we talked about this phenomenon where you go on Wikipedia of somebody, you go on Gavin McInnes' Wikipedia,
right,
and the entire top paragraph is about how he's far right, alt right, even, and associated with the Proud Boys, and
he started it.
He said this, and this, and it seems awful, but then you start looking into things, and you're like, okay, that accusation is cleared up. Yeah. Okay, and this thing is disproved here by this source. So what is there to hate the guy for? But your mind still tells you that he's a white supremacist because humans are all just like groupthinky sheep. And if Wikipedia is telling you something bad about the guy, part of you believes it.
Yeah. No,
but I've seen no evidence that he's actually a racist at all.
I've heard him, I remember listening to him on Joe Rogan back in the day and hearing him say a bunch of stuff that I took as blatantly racist and misogynistic. But in retrospect, it was probably funny, and I was probably just being kind of sensitive about it. So I don't know. I can't really remember. I would have to see a greatest hits of all his worst things he's ever said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm starting to be pretty skeptical. I mean, the word racist and alt-right white supremacist, they get thrown around a little bit too liberally these days.
Yeah.
So the boy has cried racist.
You got to do your own research, just like vaccines. What are you looking to get from the conversation that we're about to do with T-Rel?
T-Rel, I want him to apologize for throwing me, first of all.
Oh, my God.
And then I'd like to...
check in on this TikTok.
Let's see. Where were we at? 700 views last time?
1,300. It's going places.
Is that sarcastic? Is that not very good?
No, it's not very good.
What can you? I'm not a TikTok star, dude. I'm 13 years too old, and I don't have a cute enough haircut.
You got to make one and just stop talking about white power and your penis.
I'm not going to give those two things up.
That's fair. Okay. We're going to get into a T-Rail next. Are we going to just put out 2 this week?
Whatever you want to do,
like
boss man.
Episode?
Whatever you want to do.
It makes sense to me rather than like save it up for a week.
Huh?
Okay. And if anybody wants to inquire about becoming a 3rd or 4th mic here, we are at least somewhat open to the idea. I would say this is my preferred method of like getting submissions is upload a video of yourself talking for not an extended period of time, less than 5 minutes, explaining who you are, what you do, give us a glimpse of your personality, and put in the description or title or both, #Sledgelords. That would make it easy for us to review.
I am going to tell you right now, this is going to be a complete shitstorm. This is going to be like when Limp Bizkit was auditioning guitarists.
Who even watches this? I have no fucking clue. And we're not exactly saying this at the beginning of the episode.
What do we do? Who are we looking for?
Should probably put it on my story.
I want a giant Samoan man.
Ooh.
If we had a big fat Samoan.
You're looking to replace King Croc. You want like an intimidating physical presence in the building?
I like Samoans. What about King Croc? Originally, the idea for Sledgelords is you were thinking about having King Croc as a third mic.
And that's why a lot of people are going to take us even considering adding an additional host as like some sort of admission of failure, which it is, but it's also, this is something we were talking about doing from the beginning, and then we figured, like, let's just get the ball rolling with just us.
Yeah, I mean, there was going to be King Croc. King Croc would still be a great third host. Maybe.
We could do an episode with him. But
with
I feel
King
like,
Croc?
I don't know, like, I feel like we do have, like, pretty fluid conversations on here, and I just wonder if we were to bring this sort of brutish King Croc guy on, I just wonder how much that might change the flow. That is the one thing I would be concerned with. And also, no matter who we bring on, there's going to have to be some kind of conversation about, like, this is the main thing going here, and you guys gotta like play a role that is not like, I don't want to fucking hear your voice every 5 seconds, basically.
I don't want to hear him much at all, really.
I just want to be able to look at him.
I just want to occasionally be able to look over and be like, you're a piece of shit.
Whoever it is, I hope they have thighs like Flacco.
Big, thick thighs.
Yeah.
That's one of the requirements.
That's a big draw for me, yeah.
Thighs?
Yeah. Are you going to be married to still having your whole couch here? Or are you gonna
I need the whole couch.
Nobody
can sit next to me.
We should put the couch over here and let the two people like sit sort of like on top of each other, make it real uncomfortable for them.
How about this? I want a better, plusher couch brought in that's maybe twice as long as this, and then I want the 2 third and fourth mic people to be sitting on cushions on the floor.
I like that. Or what about like a stool?
They get stools?
Like a spiked stool.
Ooh, like a medieval torture device.
Yeah.
I like it. Until they work their way up. I'm telling you right now, the open audition system is going to be a fucking disaster. Yeah. I think if we want to bring somebody else on, it should be somebody with a proven track record.
And certainly your social media following / like whatever else you can point us towards if you wanted to say, hey, I also do skits. I also do this on YouTube, this on TikTok, whatever. If you want to link to that, talk about that, that would be preferred. But
if you do skits, I can tell you right now, it's a no, buddy. I'm not going to have a skit doer on
you
here.
Won't be doing skits on here, but having done skits or, any type of content doesn't have to be scripted, that would be of note for us.
You're a big TikToker, so you're into skits.
I can
Those
see
are
the
acceptable
value
to
in
you.
it.
In skits?
It's short form shit. You do shorts, right? You haven't really gone short on them yet?
No, but that's just because I'm a terrible businessman.
I don't feel like making shorts is necessarily like a great business plan at this point in time. Although, I mean, you could just have somebody fucking do it from your videos for you. So it would be pretty easy. But.
No, I don't know how interested people will be in us talking about shorts strategy, but that's something I definitely want to expand into more because I slack on it.
The other day, we got like 4 million views on a short, and I think it made like $60.
Sledgelords?
No. No jumper thing.
Was it somebody brawling?
I can't remember what it was.
Was it somebody with a silly nickname fighting another guy with a silly nickname?
No, but I'm sure that kind of content would do great for you. Parentheses, brawl. Okay, I'm going to go eat a meal before we do this T-Rail thing.
Let's do it, dude.